And the Miami Dolphins are now being analyzed. Though Herm Edwards was almost fired last year, but he signed Rich Gannon mid-year, and Gannon almost brought them to the playoffs. They finished 8-9 when they would have probably been one of the worst teams in the league. I thought Sam Bradford or Tim Tebow was going to be a Dolphin. But here we are. They played themselves out of a top pick, and now they had the 16th overall pick because of their record. But they have Jeff Smoker, Jimmy Clausen, a second-round pick, and they have Pat White from last year's second round. So this team is going to be a QB carousel. Smoker, I felt, was the easiest to play with. Pat White had some sparks. Clausen's the rookie, and let's just say if they start doing poor, I'm going to be doing some quarterback movements. They do have Steven Jackson, so he's a veteran running back. It's amazing how he's not as high ranked as I expected him to be, because I always thought Jackson, even at this time, was still pretty solid. But let's see, he was originally drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. And then when Dallas had the opportunity to get Adrian Peterson, I thought, well, you know what? They're going to go for Peterson. So they end up, the Miami Dolphins wanted to get their running back. They signed Chris Perry, who did very well with the Houston Texans, despite his overall. But Miami has struggled being that dynamic rushing team. So I guess even though Steven Jackson in real life was more dynamic, in this league he hasn't been as solid. They do have receivers like Michael Jenkins. They drafted Bryant Johnson a long time ago. It was Johnson and Jenkins. But Johnson moved on to Green Bay, and I forget where he's at now. I'll probably get to it at another roster. But they do have Jordy Nelson with Michael Jenkins. They have Brian Hartline from Ohio State, who was a real-life pick that they had. Will Franklin. Dustin Keller was one of their first-round picks back in 2008, the 20th overall pick. And, of course, he's not panning out too well. But he's still the starter right now. It was Randy McMichael it was between him and Randy McMichael last year. McMichael, better overall, better player. And so I'm giving Keller the starting job this year, and we'll see how he does. Now, they still have Chris Samuels, but I had them trade up for Trent Williams. So they went from the 16th pick to the 9th overall pick to get Trent Williams because he was dropping, but I didn't want to drop out of the top 10. Now, notice they don't need a left tackle, but Samuels is getting really old, and I figured, well, you know what? Williams can be the left guard, and Vince Manui or someone else can be moved. I think I might move Manui to center. I don't know why he's not center right now, because Legursky doesn't need to be starter when you have Manui. They do have Carl Nix. Is it Carl Nix? Let me double check there. Yeah, it is Carl Nix. He was right tackle, moved to right guard. There's Jeremy Trueblood, the right tackle, solid 81 overall there. So as for their offense, they might come out like a pass offense, but if they rely on Jackson, they might have better chances when their quarterbacks are that low. Now, as for the defense of the Miami Dolphins, we see Jonathan Abraham and Quentin Moses on the outside with Sidbury as he was a third-round pick last year. He would have been the starter, but we just have Abraham there. I think Abraham was there for a couple years now, but Sidbury is ready to take over when Abraham retires. We see Mike Patterson, a former first-round pick back in 2005, 81 overall, and they have Dwayne Robertson, who was a Saints first-round pick at DT. He is there on the interior defensive line. There's Antoine Barnes, the weak outside linebacker on the right side. They do have James Laurinaitis, the 18th overall pick last year. Laurinaitis is probably their key to their defense. And then there's Bobby Carpenter. And they did draft before. It was Bobby Carpenter and Thomas Howard. But Howard, he's there, but I think... I misunderstood what I was my own roster. Thomas Howard is the starting right outside linebacker, not Barnes. But Howard is injured right now. So they do have a solid linebacking core with Howard, Laurinaitis, and Bobby Carpenter. I was a little bit surprised why Barnes was there. Then we see Chris McAllister getting old at cornerback, but 80 overall. Aaron Ross, Sean Williams at safety, where it should be Quinn when he's not hurt. And then we see Schweigert over there at free safety. So with this defense, their linebackers are their bread and butter, right? That's their Howard, Laurinaitis, Carpenter. Their D-line with Abraham and Patterson tend to be their other pluses. some gaps there could be improved upon, but they can only do so much in one offseason. And then their punter is Sam Koch, and Paul Ettinger is their kicker. So let me know if you think the Miami Dolphins are going to be a bottom team or a top team. They do have to go against the Jets with Alex Smith, who's one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks in the league, Tom Brady, and even you saw earlier in a previous video with Buffalo. Buffalo with Josh Freeman might not be as powerful, but we'll see. But here you are, the Miami Dolphins. Let me know what you think.